Hey everyone, it's Allie, and I want to talk about how the endgame systems work in Path of Exile 2, as I've had quite a lot of people ask me about it. Endgame in Path of Exile 2 is going to revolve around this Atlas, which is a infinitely spanning map in all directions that have infinite nodes for you to go and complete. To access these nodes, you are going to have to use a Waystone, which scales from tier 1 to 15. Each tier means that the monster level inside the Waystone is going to be higher, meaning the monsters are more dangerous but more rewarding. As you progress through your Waystones, you will naturally drop Waystones of a higher tier, the same tier, or a lower tier than the Waystone that you put in, meaning as you progress, you'll slowly get tier 2 Waystones, then tier 3 Waystones, then tier 4, and so on. What I highly recommend for you to do at the start is to talk to Doriani and to buy all the Waystones that he has to offer. His shop will restock every now and then. I believe it's every time you level. And I would definitely recommend for you to spend your gold and keep buying Waystones from him, as he'll help you not only with your early sustain of Waystones, but he'll also help you with just getting through the first 2 tiers a little bit faster. On the right side of your screen, you will have a quest that tells you complete 10 tier 1 maps or complete 10 tier 2 maps, and so on and so forth. This is going to be the main thing that you're going to want to follow along with, as every time you do complete the quest, Doriani will give you a book for 2 additional passive points for your Atlas tree, which we'll talk about here in a moment. You can do Waystones of a higher tier to get credit. For example, if you're on the complete 10 tier 2 map quests, you can do tier 3, T4, T5 maps, and so on. And what I'd recommend for you to do with your Waystones is for you to always make sure you transmute and augment all of them to add additional modifiers onto them, not only to make them more difficult, but to also make them more rewarding. Waystones will have prefixes and suffixes, which if you hold Alt, you can see which one is which. Prefixes are always going to be things that directly benefit you by either adding more monsters or making the map itself more rewarding, while suffixes are always going to be things that make the map harder. You're going to still want to put suffixes on your map because all modifiers on a Waystone increase the Waystone drop chance, which is highly crucial for you to always be able to sustain your Waystones, to not run out of them, especially when you get into the end game where the Waystones get a little bit more rare as you push towards tier 15 maps. Once you get to maybe around tier 8, tier 9 or so, if you ever get yourself any Waystones with no modifiers on them, I recommend for you to instead transmute and augmenting them, to instead use an Orb of Alchemy on them, as that'll make them rare, guarantee more modifiers on them, and make them more difficult, but also make them even more rewarding, which is going to be really important for your Waystone sustain. In terms of the nodes themselves, they're pretty straight to the point. If you ever go and do a node and you die, you can repeat it again, but any sort of guaranteed content that was going to be present in that node is going to go away, meaning that the map is going to be pretty bare bones. When you do the map, your main goal is to kill all rare monsters on the map. Whenever you get below 200 monsters remaining, all rare monsters will be highlighted on the map with a yellow skull, make it very easy for you to go and hunt them down. About a quarter of all maps will have a boss inside of them, which is denounced by this yellow and black skull above the node. When you enter one of these maps, it'll be a little bit shorter and it'll have less rares inside of them. And inside this map, you'll also have to kill the rare boss to get completion for the map. Outside of that, there'll be plenty of other icons above each of the nodes denouncing that there's some sort of content in there. You can find out more information about all of them in the top left by simply hovering over the eye and clicking to pin this map, which will then give you a little bit of information about what each of these nodes do if you ever need to reference them. The TLDR here is that they will either be telling you that there's going to be a specific mechanic in there. For example, here, we are guaranteed to find a Mirror of Delirium, which is one of the main lead mechanics, and the area is going to be corrupted. Areas that are corrupted, or areas that are irradiated, like this one here with the yellow figures with the up arrow above it, mean that the monster level is going to be 1 higher, making it a little bit more difficult, but a little bit more rewarding. For the corrupted areas, the ones with red tentacles, every time you kill monsters, they'll drop a little red orb on the ground, and if enough of them are near each other, they'll coalesce together into a portal that spawns Beyond Demons. These Beyond Demons are a little bit difficult, but they're very rewarding, making maps that are corrupted be pretty good for additional loot. Outside of that, what you also find dotted across the land are going to be these towers. When you go into a tower and complete it, you'll then be able to put a tablet inside the tower, which then adds modifiers to everything within a giant circle. For example, for this tower here, everything within this giant black and orange circle will be affected by the tablet. These tablets come in a few different varieties, but the majority of them are going to be focused around specific lead mechanics. This Delirium tablet adds extra Delirium mirrors to a bunch of nodes within the range of the tower, and if I were to specifically go and do those Delirium nodes, I have a chance to get more Delirium tablets, which then let me add more mirrors of Delirium to different towers, which then give me more Delirium tablets, meaning I can basically self-sustain and constantly do whatever mechanic I'm interested in doing. At the same time, you can still transmute and augment these as you can for normal items. And for example, example, with this irradiated tablet, this tablet, when put inside of a tower, will make it so 5 random nodes within the circle are going to be irradiated, giving them 1 additional monster level. But every single node will benefit from the modifiers they put on with a transient augment, meaning that the 10% quantity of items found inside the map and the 12% quantity of Waystones applies to every single node. What this basically leads you into then wanting to do is to find an area like this where there's a bunch of towers, go and quickly clear to all of them without touching too many of the nodes around them, put a tablet inside of all of them, and then, for example, with all of these nodes right here, put a lot of additional modifiers for free on them. So for example here, I went and got these 5 towers, and now all of these nodes have 10% increased XP gain, 30% increased monsters, 7% pack size, 18% rarity, and 23% increased Waystones. This is basically what we are going to consider in Path of Exile 2 as juicing, which is our term for just making the maps even better. These modifiers are then going to also stack with whatever modifiers they put on top of the map, meaning that these maps I do in the zone are going to be very, very rewarding, especially given I've put a lot of irradiated, a lot of different mechanics, and a lot of extra things in here to make them even better than before. This is going to be something that you're going to really want to keep in mind, as not only will this help you with your Waystone sustain, given that putting more juice on the maps will just overall give you more monsters and more Waystones to constantly be able to keep going up in tiers, but you'll also just get more loot, meaning you'll make more money from all of these different maps that you do. Finally, what we need to talk about here is what I mentioned earlier in the video, those Atlas points that Doriani gives you for completing his quest. Every time you complete a quest, he'll give you 2 passive points. You'll be able to spend them on the Atlas passive tree, which gives you a variety of bonuses to endgame. Now, this might look a little bit intimidating, but it really isn't, and it's very simple and to the point. On the outside, there are a bunch of different trees for each of the mechanics, allowing you to hyper specialize into them if you want to make them better. For example, if I wanted to make my breaches better because I like them, I could add passive points to these to potentially make them open and close 30% faster, or to make my maps potentially have additional breaches. These points for all of the different league mechanics are going to come from you and specifically interacting with them. For example, if I like doing deliriums and I want more passive points for delirium, I would have to go and complete a simulacrum, which is delirium's endgame encounter, which if completed successfully gives me 2 passive points to spend on the tree. That means in total, I'd have to do 4 simulacrums to gain all the passive points. And these passive points can be respected Doriani as much as you want to by just simply clicking on refund Atlas passives and then simply just getting rid of whatever you want for a modest gold cost. For the top of the tree, the lower tree is going to focus around making the boss nodes a lot better, which you only start getting points for once you get to tier 15 maps. And then the tree all the way at the top specifically refers to the pinnacle boss, which makes the drops from the pinnacle boss even better. As for the tree in the middle, this is going to be the one that you're mostly going to be interacting with to begin with. This just offers you a bunch of really good generic nodes that give you a bunch of additional effects, such as increased quantity and rarity, meaning you just get more loot, or things such as constant crossroads, which gives you more quantity of Waystones, make it easier for you to constantly get Waystones and constantly sustain them. What I'd recommend for you to do at the start is pretty simple. First, I'd recommend for you to go over to the right and pick up Constant Crossroads. This is going to give you 20% more quantity of Waystones, so you get to progress a little bit easier. And then after that, come up here and pick up all these nodes at the top. I'd recommend going to Teaming Horde first, and then picking up Precursor Influence, and then picking up these 2 small Waystones have a 10% chance to be found as a tier higher, as all this will just make it a lot faster to progress. After that, what I personally did is I beelined directly for Deadly Evolution, as adding additional modifiers to rare and unique monsters gives you substantially more loot. But if you find this being a little bit too difficult, you can just completely respec out of it and just completely ignore this. From there, I'd recommend pick up Expanding Hordes, as more magic pack size means just more monsters, which means more loot, and then maybe getting yourself Rising Danger and Twin Threats for more rares. From there, with the last 8 points or so, you can do whatever you want. I'd maybe recommend putting your points into shrines or strong boxes, or maybe just picking up all of the additional modifier effect or quantity on the right side of the tree. But I'm personally going to be spending all my points on the essence nodes, as I feel like you could make a decent amount of additional passive income by picking up all these. Later on, once you do get to the end game, you're free to respec this as much as you want to and try out whatever you want, as the respecs are very cheap, so you're more than welcome to go and explore and experiment with whatever you like. I just highly recommend, at least at the minimum, to pick up Constant Crossroads and all these nodes at the top, as that'll make your progression at the beginning of the Atlas substantially faster. That's all there really is to the end game. You just take your Waystones, put them inside of a node, do the node, get the loots, walk out, and then continue again. Your goal is to make it all the way to T15, and then once you get to T15, the real end game in Path of Exile starts, where you can start hyper focusing on doing specific content, such as maybe doing Mirrors of Delirium or Breaches or whatever you want, or potentially engaging with some of the end game bosses in Path of Exile 2 through their respective content, such as simulacrums for Delirium. At that point, you can start making more money to upgrade your build, to make it stronger, to do the content easier, or to potentially make it even more difficult from there. The endgame Path of Exile is pretty fun. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave your comments in the comments below. And I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so feel free to come by Twitch and ask any of your questions there. Or if you simply just want to come be a part of our community, I'd be more than happy to see you there as well. With all that said, I hope you kitties enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you all in the next video.